The whole restaurant fell silent the moment she walked in, not because anyone recognized her as one of the wealthiest women in the city, but because there was something powerful, almost royal, in the way she carried herself. Eleanor Hartley, CEO of a multimillion-dollar firm, wore a white evening dress that shimmered beneath the chandelier lights. Her son, Michael, only 7 years old, held her hand tightly as they made their way to a reserved table, the kind usually held for dignitaries and celebrities. Little did anyone know, this night, meant to be a simple dinner, would become the turning point of not only her life, but of a stranger's too. Because sometimes, the richest hearts don't reveal themselves through money, but through compassion. White medium star. If you believe the world needs more kindness, compassion, and second chances, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue creating emotional stories like this. Eleanor tried hard to smile as she looked at her son. Tonight was supposed to be special, just the two of them, because she had been working too much lately. She had promised him that after weeks of canceled plans, ignored bedtime conversations, and missed school events, she would finally give him her time. But even as the waiter pulled out her chair and Michael sat beside her, she couldn't shake the weight on her chest. She was a great businesswoman, everyone said that. But privately, she feared she wasn't a great mother. Money couldn't fix everything, especially the distance she could feel growing between her and her son. As she sat there quietly, trying to focus on the moment rather than the guilt in her heart, her eyes caught something across the room, a man and a little girl sitting at a small table, sharing one plate of pasta. The girl looked about Michael's age, her curls bouncing every time she giggled. The man, clearly her father, watched her with a warmth and softness that struck Eleanor unexpectedly. He didn't look wealthy. His shirt had slightly worn cuffs and the restaurant was clearly far above his budget. But his eyes were filled with affection, unlike Eleanor's, which were filled with fatigue and regret. She couldn't look away. The single father sliced the food into smaller bites and pushed the plate toward his daughter, letting her eat most of it while he ate only what was left. He smiled every time she smiled. He had nothing, yet he gave everything. Michael followed his mother's gaze and saw the other family. Eleanor expected him to ask questions, but instead she noticed an unfamiliar sadness in her son's eyes, as if he understood what she was thinking. It had been a long time since she had looked at him the way that stranger looked at his daughter, like nothing in the world mattered more. A waiter walked past the single dad's table with a bill discreetly placed on the edge. Eleanor saw the man's jaw tighten. He reached for his wallet hesitantly. Even across the room, she could see that there wasn't enough. The embarrassment burned in his face, and the little girl sensed it immediately, her smile fading into confusion. She wrapped her tiny hand around her father's fingers, trying to comfort him without understanding the situation. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't explain it. The impulse wasn't logical, wasn't planned, wasn't something she could justify through numbers or financial decisions. It came from somewhere deeper. From somewhere she had neglected for too long. Before she knew it, she signaled her waiter and whispered something that made him widen his eyes in surprise, then nod respectfully. Moments later, the manager walked to the single dad's table, bowed politely, and informed him that their entire bill, including dessert the little girl had dreamed of ordering but didn't, had already been taken care of. The father looked stunned. The girl clapped her hands with excitement, unaware of what was happening. The manager pointed discreetly toward Eleanor's table. The men looked over. Their eyes met. Eleanor expected gratitude, maybe an awkward smile, but instead, she saw something much deeper. A kind of wordless understanding, father to mother, parent to parent. He didn't say thank you out loud, but everything in his expression said it 1,000 times over. He knew she wasn't just helping him, she was saving something inside herself too. The little girl waved shyly at Michael, who waved back with a real smile, one Eleanor hadn't seen in so long. It hit her then. Michael didn't need expensive dinners, exclusive resorts, toys worth thousands. He needed her. Not her money. Her love. Her presence. The father and daughter finished their meal happily, ordering dessert for the first time in what seemed like a long while. Eleanor kept watching quietly, tears forming in her eyes, not because she pitied them, but because she suddenly envied them. They had little but lived like they had everything. She had everything but lived like she had nothing. Just before leaving, the single dad approached her table cautiously, and without saying a word, he placed a folded napkin next to her glass. He didn't wait for her to read it. He simply held his daughter's hand and walked out with a peaceful smile. Eleanor opened the napkin with shaking fingers. Inside, written in messy handwriting, were the words, "You're doing better than you think." Your child doesn't need a perfect mother. Just a present one. Her heart broke right there, in the most beautiful way. For the first time in a long time, she put her phone away. She closed her planner. She turned her full body toward Michael and asked him about school, about his drawings, about his dreams. And when he spoke, she listened, truly listened. They laughed, they talked, they ate together, and slowly the distance between them dissolved. Later that night, while tucking Michael into bed, he wrapped his small arms around her and whispered that it was the best night of his life. Eleanor cried silently after he fell asleep, not because she was sad, but because she finally understood what matters. Sometimes the most unbelievable act isn't spending money, it's opening your heart. Sparkles, if this story touched you or reminded you of the importance of love, family, and kindness, please like, comment, and subscribe so we can continue creating more emotional storytelling for you. Speech balloon, before you go, tell us in the comments, would you help a stranger if you knew it could change their life, even if no one would ever know you did it? Thank you for watching. Never underestimate the power of kindness. It can save someone else, and sometimes, it can save you too. Yellow heart.